Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to a brand new series of the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Today we're here in the French capital where we're focusing on women, wine and food. Coming up, the nectar of the gods or goddesses. It's also how women chefs are among those leading a food revolution here in Paris. And we meet the culinary queen of Mexico. If you think that French winemaking is indeed a man's world, think again. More and more we're seeing a female touch when it comes to the fermentation of some of the country's most famous wines. Claire Williams and Farah Boucherac travelled to the vineyards of Bordeaux where they met three sisters as they harvested this year's crop.
Grape picking has begun at Chateau Bousco. It's the first day of harvest for Sophie LURTON-Cogom's Sauvignon Blanc.
Sophie added her own feminine touch. And the wine is not as strong and it's better.
Sophie LURTON inherited this vineyard from her father and now runs it with her husband Laurent.
A lot of women are now managing estates. I think it's
managing the production too.
And the production.
The production in wine and vineyards.
Sophie's 7 brothers and 2 of her sisters are established Bordeaux winemakers. The family is worth 300 million euros. The oldest sister, MARIE-LAURE, has a meeting at Le Winery, a wine promotion firm that chose the sisters for a tourism project simply because they're women. When MARIE-LAURE studied winemaking in 1984, she was the only woman in her class. She didn't always feel welcome. Old superstitions hold that women menstruating sour the wine during fermentation.
When I started working in the industry, there were old wine cellar owners who'd say they didn't want women in their cellars. It was like that. It wasn't long ago, it was about 20 years ago.
I experienced it when I started. That was 30 years ago now. There were only men in the cellars.
Times have changed. The LURTON brothers have long been well known. Now the sisters are getting their share of the spotlight. These wine buyers say they want wine made by women.
When you really look into it, you find women make different wines. Women are more concentrated on their work.
Going a step further, the youngest sister is even playing the feminine card in her marketing strategy. Berenice LURTON has completely redesigned her dessert wines label with women in mind.
I think this kind of wine is feminine, and we have created it with women, and I think you can see it.
But is there really a difference between wines made by women and those made by men?
We think that the difference is more in the character of the wine, which may be feminine or masculine in its personality, but maybe not so much due to the producer himself or herself.
The sisters suggested a blind wine tasting, but they doubt even an expert could tell who made the wine. Like people, they say wines have personalities, regardless of their gender.
Now, here in the French capital, there's a food revolution currently underway, where younger chefs are taking on the establishment and challenging the notions of what actually makes fine food. Not surprisingly, among them is a group of women chefs, including Alice Quier and Anna Tratols, both of whom own Café Le Bal and 10 Bells, which is not far from where I'm now standing. Let's go and meet them. Alice and Anna, thanks for meeting us. Just how tough is it to be a woman chef here in Paris?
Well, I think it's probably the same as anywhere else. I'm sure Paris at the moment isn't any different from New York or London or Sydney. There are some issues. Basically, people's idea of the stereotypical chef is usually that it's a man. So often with delivery boys or with people we interview for a job, they often assume that the other man in the kitchen is the chef and in charge, and it's not us.
He's normally our dishwasher.
Yes.
Now, you're both self-taught chefs. Why did you choose to go down that particular path as opposed to choosing a traditional form of training?
That's a good question. Why? Well, I would say I think we fell into cooking. It wasn't really something that we thought about. We just discovered that it was something we loved and we were passionate about. I think we can put it down to the first place we both worked at, which is Rose Bakery in the 9th arrondissement. It's run by a woman, Ros Cararini, and I think that Rose Bakery was a very formative experience, and working under Ros was highly influential. She was self-taught as well.
And she both gave us the opportunity to start in the kitchen where we had no previous experience. Yeah.
Now, you're both known for introducing modern British food to the Parisian palate. Just how tough a sell has that been?
British food's got a very bad reputation in France. And so when we opened up, we were obviously aware of that, but also aware that we wanted to, in a way, educate the Parisians of the way of British modern food. And so we also realised there were a lot of similarities between regional French food and regional British food. And so we went along with those recipes as well as a kind of bridge between the two worlds.
People are curious, and young French people have travelled a lot more than older generations, and a lot of them go live in London. They go, they work in finance, they go to New York. I think that's opened up everyone's minds when it comes to British food.
So is there a difference between the sort of dishes that would be offered up by a female chef as opposed to a male chef?
Well, Anna and I often talk about this because I claim that I can identify a dish if it's made by a man or by a woman.
How do you do that?
I don't want to stereotype, but I think that a plate made by a woman tends to have a little bit less ego, in the sense that technique and the way things are done aren't as obvious when it's a plate done by a woman, whereas a man it'll be kind of, look at what I've done. But I think something that is quite interesting is, for example, there aren't any women who do molecular gastronomy. That field is completely dominated by men, and I think it's a case of boys and their toys, and that women just aren't interested in that.
Anna?
I don't know what to say after
that.
Sorry. She said it all. Okay. Finally, who appreciates food more, men or women?
We definitely have more women for lunch, for example, at the Bal. The coffee scene at 10 Bells definitely attracts equal measures of both.
I mean, at Le Bal we do a lot of offal, and that traditionally is something that men like to eat because it makes them look macho if they can just, cut into a piece of tongue or a piece of brain. But we love offal. It's the kind of food that we like to eat, and we're women, so I don't know. It depends, really.
So there's no difference?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you, Alice and Anna, for that. Now, women chefs have not just been making waves here in Paris, but in other parts of the world as well. Such as Mexico City's Elena Regadas, who's been attracting international acclaim for her cooking, so much so that she's just been named top female chef in Latin America by the prestigious British magazine Restaurant.
Her restaurant, according to the award panel, is one of the finest dining destinations in Mexico's huge metropolis of a capital. But above all, it's the one place where Elena Regadas really feels at home.
Para mí la cocina.
Cooking is my life's work, the essence of who I am. I feel great when I cook and offer my food to people. When you get a chance to share what you've cooked, it creates a connection, a very special bond.
The New York-trained chef flew back from London in 2010 with an appetite for Italian cuisine. The 38-year-old says she loves to cook her own handmade pasta, but as she got to know local farmers, her style evolved to combine classic Mediterranean recipes with more traditional Mexican dishes.
Of course, now more than ever, we have to roll up our sleeves and carry on. We know many more people will come, people with high expectations. We'll try not to disappoint anyone.
For several years, she stayed away from the limelight. Word of mouth put her restaurant on the city's gastronomy map. Ray Gardas wants to keep it simple. It's not about the number of plates or the fancy cutlery on the table. She says her aim is to get people to come back more than just once a year on special occasions. After receiving her award, Ray Gardas praised her team's hard work, but also insisted the prize was a strong signal sent to the millions of women across the continent looking to make a life for themselves.
It's very stimulating that they chose to reward me personally, but I don't think I'm really the best cook in Mexico, let alone in Latin America. There are millions of chefs, but I think it shows that it's possible for women to combine family life and work.
Ray Gardas could well make it back onto the front pages of magazines next year when the jury meets again to choose the world's best female chef.
I'm really sorry, that's all we have time for. However, if you want to comment on what you've just seen, you can do so by heading to our Facebook page, France24 _ the 51%, or send us a tweet at _51%. We really appreciate your feedback and please keep those comments rolling in. Until our next program, bye for now.